A 1994 amendment to Ohio's Constitution banned all wholesale taxes placed on food. However, the definition of food includes candy, juice, processed meals, and more. An Ohio State senator wants to change that. Senate Joint Resolution 9 would repeal the 94 ban, allowing foods to be taxed. What would this change mean, and how would it benefit Ohioans? Ohio State Senator Louis Blessing III, the sponsor of this resolution, is joining me here now to tell us more about this proposal. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, so no taxes on food and beverages. It's been a popular initiative since it was proposed. Why do you want to undo this?
So I think there's some misunderstanding with this, and specifically food is taxed to some degree right now, not if it's takeout food. But what happened in 1994 is it banned the wholesale or excise taxes on food and sugary beverages, for example. And the key to note here is that economists will tell you that a modest tax on a sugary beverage has the dual benefit of A, raising revenue, B, reducing consumption, and C, because that consumption is reduced, it's going to lead to less Medicaid costs for the state and less healthcare costs overall in Ohio, where obesity really is a problem. So all this resolution does is just removes that constitutional bar to the excise taxes and puts us back to where we were. And I might point out that Governor George Voinovich, in particular, was in favor of a sugary drink beverage tax. And that was the law prior to this. And I think we need to take a second look at this, because I think economists would broadly say that what was done in 1994 wasn't a good idea, even though it sounds good on paper.
Yeah, you hear doctors talk a lot about what's good for the diet, but now this is the government getting involved. So I think a lot of folks are saying, well, we have to look at this. What sugary drinks would be included? Is it just sodas? Or would you say maybe also some of those popular coffee beverages where you have sugars mixed in?
So nothing is really included at the moment, because to my knowledge, there is nothing in statute taxing or levying excise taxes on food or non-alcoholic beverages. So if this were to pass the ballot, literally nothing would change. However, I would envision the General Assembly bringing back what was there prior to 1994, a modest penny per ounce sugary drink tax that would raise a significant amount of revenue for the state and reduce consumption, which would, of course, help our obesity crisis, reduce healthcare costs, and allow some of that money to be then triaged in a different way. So the revenue that would be raised from that could be put into food banks and Medicaid, so that it really is helping those people that are most impacted by it.
What kind of foods would be included on the tax?
I mean, at the time, it was just sugary drinks. So, like Coca-Cola, Mountain Dew, things like that, that are, you really just have high levels of sugar and really not a lot of nutritional value. And to the extent that, over the past couple of years, you've had that MAHA movement, and MAHA Moms, I think, is the group that pushes, healthy living. I would hope that this is something that they would look at. And to my way of thinking, you can't really be inclined to do something like that, without looking at how taxes can divert behavior in healthier ways.
We're hearing a lot about taxes. Of course, we've got the governor's race coming up this year, and we're hearing proposals about abolishing property taxes or changing the way that they are formulated. And new taxes might be controversial depending on the voters and where they're standing right now with their finances. Do you think that this is something that would pass with the voters if it went to them?
I think voters would struggle with this, not because they wouldn't, dig into it and think through it and say this is a great idea. I just think it's going to be, frankly, demagogued, where if it did make the ballot, I could see the soft drink industry saying, no, we don't want to be taxed at all. That's what this is. And I think a lot of folks wouldn't think, too much of it and say, yeah, I just don't want another tax, even though the economics behind it are very sound.
And where does this stand right now, and what are the next steps?
So it's just been introduced. I would be simply hoping for a sponsored testimony to get this out there. Again, it would take an education campaign for folks to, really become comfortable with something like this and understood how it really would help Ohio in the long run.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us here on 21 News at 5 to share all the details about it. We will be following it as it moves along. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.